Endearing. That's going to be a word you're going to hear a lot today. When we first pitched the idea of wanting to do a book club, there was no doubt in my mind what the first book should be. As you'll hear from our thoughts and ramblings, this first episode covers a wrestler that's very near and dear to our hearts, but one whose book opened the door for wrestling biographies to come and still sits as a benchmark. So please pull up a chair, get comfortable, and join us as we look through the pages of Have a Nice Day, A Tale of Blood and Sweat Socks.
Hello everybody and welcome to the first ever episode of the Bearhug Book Club. Greg here, joined by his very own hardcore legend at the moment, Mr. Garrod Winter. How's it going, Garrod?
Sorry, hold on. Hardcore legend over here.
Give everyone a stubby hello.
He's got 2 thumbs and a broken wrist. Look at this guy.
Do you want to tell the audience how you ended up with a broken wrist there, buddy?
Well, you see, we were doing some unscripted bits in the ring because it's, still real to me, damn it. And we were just doing some heel and face work, and I was heel, which means that, I should call the spots, really, right? That's what you should do. And I was in there with our academy champion, who should really be calling spots, and he was. We go to lock up. I step out the way. Everyone calls me a chicken. I turn. I'm like, me? No. Goes to lock up. He dodges the lock up. Goes for a waist lock. Right. So he's behind me. I'm like, struggling out. He calls something, and I call something at the same time. And he goes, and he basically was just like, because he's a very lovely guy, was like, what did you call? And I was like, cool, right. And I was like, okay, lift me up, take me to the ground. So just a basic waist lock, like this. Lift me up. I go, whoa, and then I go to the ground. Now, I don't remember going down weirdly.
Okay.
However, I hit the ground, and I don't remember a loud crack. I don't remember a something. But I know, I'm like, instantly, I look up to my coach, and I'm like, I broke my wrist. And he goes, and I'm still in the waist lock, right, on the floor. And I'm like, I broke my wrist. And he's like, what? And I'm like, my wrist is broken. And he's like, what? And I'm like, and then Xander's like, he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I broke my wrist, while he's still holding me. And then I sit up, right, with my wrist like just out of place. If I have any decent pictures of it out of place, I'd send that to you. But like it's just sticking out. And I turn to like the crowd, the other wrestlers, and I'm just like, I broke my wrist, and I didn't feel it at all. Like it just didn't hurt at all.
Well, that'd be like the adrenaline, right?
I honestly don't know. I think I got very lucky with the break. It was just the whole thing just came out.
Well, you showed me the picture of the X-ray, and I'll get it up on here when it's time. But it looked like a very clean break as well.
There wasn't really fractured or grazed or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, it just didn't hurt that much. Even like when we were in the car, I was like, this is all right. Like it's not too bad. I was like, it must just be the adrenaline. But it wasn't too bad. I like to think I kept my cool pretty well. There were a few people that looked a little bit bluer than I did. But yes, I'm now in a cast. I have a meeting at the fracture clinic on Monday to see what the crack is there. But yes, honestly, it's weird because I know a lot of people would probably get something like this and then be like, I guess I'm not going to ever wrestle again. But if anything, this is... it's removed any fear I ever had of breaking bones. Like I know that I could probably get one that hurts a lot more than this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But like, I'm good. Like I want to get back in now, and I can't do that because I'd die. But I'd like to do that.
Well, considering you've been such a ring warrior this week and suffered your first injury, I think it's quite fitting that we're recording our first episode after you've broken your wrist, because the First episode of our brand new book club was, of course, on Mick Foley's Have a Nice Day, A Tale of Blood and Sweat Socks, published by Regan Books, first released in the 20th of October, 1999. And, I mean, Mick Foley's a guy who knows a thing or two about injuries. In fact, on the book itself, here it is.
I would go and get my copy, but it's in the car, and that involves finding my sling and everything. So I just have it currently rested on a Kenny Omega shirt, so
that's fine. And rather fittingly, on the back, Foley does list all the injuries he had at the time. I mean, obviously, this was 99. I think he had quite a few more to go by the time he left his in-ring career. Let's see, broken wrist. Yeah, broken right wrist. There you go, right there. So you're on your way, Garrod. You're on your way.
I'm getting there. I mean, one of the main things I was going to bring up is like how actually handsome he was back in the day.
Right.
So I've got a way to go. I could go through a dude love phase. I could go through a Cactus Jack phase, and then eventually, with all those breaks, I could be a mankind. You know.
Well, a couple of things before we go really meet into it. I've read this book before. This is like one of the first books I ever bought. I think I was about 2000, 2001, so I was only like 7 years old when I bought this book. And it was a while before I actually read it properly, because obviously I was a young kid, but I loved Mick Foley, still do. He was already one of my favorite wrestlers back then, so I got his book. I've got the hard copy. You've got the paperback edition, which has got the additional chapters, don't you? So, spoiler for anyone who's read the book, here's the original hardcover version that came out. It ends when he wins the title off The Rock on that famous episode of Raw. Does yours end when it's meant to be his first retirement, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you get those additional chapters to it. So, I mean, the book's already meaty when it was first released. It's about 544 pages, I believe. What did yours clock in around at?
Oh, God, I can't remember.
It's a good extra chapters. It's not like you're just getting one or two extra chapters. You get like nearly...
Did you get the lovely pictures in the center as well?
Oh, yeah. You still get the pictures, of course. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, I've read this book at least... This might be my fourth or fifth time I've read it. So what was it like for you the first?
So did you not? So have you never read the extra chapters then?
I had. So when I first bought the book, it was the edition you've got. It came with the extra chapters. Had that for years and years and years. Lent it to my mate, and then he returned it to me in two halves because the wear and tear on it. He was just reading it, and the book just went in two because it's a thick paperback.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was halfway through it, and I was folding it over, and I was like, probably.
Yeah.
It's
one of those ones
it's
where
not going to last very long.
No, those creases will get to it eventually, and it'll just plop into. So yeah, and then eventually I was given a hardcover copy, I think, for Christmas a few years ago. So it's been back in my collection a while. I do want to get your edition just to say I've got those extra chapters. But yeah, how did you find it reading it the first time?
I began reading it, and I wasn't too enthralled to start with, because I was like,
wow.
Well, okay, so I wasn't too enthralled because it almost felt meandering for a second, and then I realized he's actually a very, very good writer, and pretty much everything in it, you end up just, it's all endearing all the time. Even the parts where it almost feels cringy, it then like crescendos into just a great story that you end up laughing at, like when he's talking about Germany, or I really like to start the book. There's a big long section talking about tapes he used to make with his mates, and for a while I was like, I don't really understand what this is, and then it just snowballed into him finding his character, him finding a love for it, and people being endeared to him before he was even wrestling, just taking a bump off of a roof, or taking a bump off of a bunk bed, or whatever. And then I was like, oh right, wait, no, I used to make those videos myself as well, so I completely get it. Get it.
He's just essentially what you get from especially those parts about his years, because it was like during college when he did that, I believe, in like high school. He was essentially like how we were, just a huge wrestling dork, basically.
Sure.
Like the whole reason. So for people who may not be familiar, because like they don't bring it up much now on WTV, but obviously back in the day they used the footage to help with Mick getting over even more. Like it shot him to the stratosphere, as you'll see in the book. Him and his friends recorded this like daft little film that they made with him basically playing the character of Dude Love before he even got to WWE, which is why it came to WWE.
They had very, I forget the exact name because I think my notes are still in the car as well. But he had very poetic titles about everything. He was quite a thespian in his creation of things. It would be like you'd see a picture of it later on or whatever, and then he'd describe it as just like, yeah, I jumped off a roof or whatever. But then the title would be like the deep echoings of the heart or something.
Because I mean, a lot of it came about just simply because of like he caught. So the first time he did that, which was just like the pictures, which are in the book as well. It's because he was like walking some girl home that he fancied, and she got his name wrong when they got to her dorm.
Yes,
and it all just stems from that. Basically, like this guy who was really just not a hit with the ladies, very heartbroken. And what does he do? He turns to wrestling to cheer himself up, which I can fairly say we probably both done on numerous occasions. Not to the level of pretending that you've jumped out of a window or then jumped off your own building, per se. But you know, he's basically like what a lot of the fans are, to be honest.
Yeah. I think I haven't actually read too many wrestlers' autobiographies. One of the reasons we wanted to do this is so that we could read more and branch out a bit. I mean, each of us are discussing what we're doing next. We've both picked up a copy of Mox. I'm excited to go through that one. But, did yours start with the Vader story?
Yeah. So
and then it went back in time?
So yeah, I think the books are similar up until mine ends, and you get your extra bits. There's no change there. So yeah, the book starts with him. I think it's a great hook because that was kind of one of his big major things. So it starts with the story of how he lost his ear with Vader in Germany. And again, as Garrod said, he writes it in such a way that it can feel quite tragic, but then there's always a sense of humor to it as well. Like he's always trying to find the funny side, even though this is a guy who lost his effing ear, as he would put it. And gets taken to one hospital, can't be treated there, gets taken to another, and then has to watch as a nurse just plops it in the bin because they can't save it anymore.
Yep. Just very callously,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is very brutal.
Mm-hmm.
He talks quite morbidly about a lot of things, but in a very approachable way, I would say.
Yeah, I think what surprised me about him, because I think anyone who's a fan of Mick Foley would say obviously he loves wrestling, but it's very interesting to read how close he came to quitting on numerous occasions before he got to WWE. Yeah,
like all through. I mean, his training and the lengths that he'd go to get there, or I mean, he's talking about his first proper school, which is him and 3 other students, and occasionally he'd drive. For how many hours? 6 hours or whatever to get there, and then hadn't been told that it was off. 6 hours back, or maybe he'd drive 6 hours there and he'd only do an hour with someone else who was there, and then drive that far back, get stuck in his car, and just talk about how he never wanted to go because he didn't know how to. All he knew how to do was bump, so all he'd do was bump, and that takes toll.
Yeah, and of course, with that, he went to Dominic DeNucci's school, which, again, like you were saying, it took him... Well, because at the time he was in college. So he would do college for all the week, and then on a weekend, like say, he would travel in his car overnight, basically sleep in his car until the school opened. Then the weekend, he would do the wrestling school, and then he would drive back in time for school on Monday. And basically, he did all that traveling. He slept in his car, even in, like, the harsh winters, which in America gets some pretty brutal winters, living on basically jars of peanut butter, just because that's all he could afford. Like, he never splashed out for a hotel or anything like that. I mean, anyone who knows Foley, he's a frugal guy, but I'm guessing that's where a lot of it started to stem from. He just did what he could to scrimp and save to be able to stay afloat in life and to fund his wrestling habit. I think that's one of the more touching stories is when it's like after his first training, and DeNucci sits him down and asks him how much he's wanting to pay, and he's like, DeNucci, the price DeNucci offered most people he couldn't afford, so he tried to give him a fair offer of around, was like $100, and DeNucci said, no, you pay me $50. Basically, the trainer was like, no, you're paying me too much. You can pay me this much if you're coming all the way here. And
and then gave him boots for a steal as well.
Yeah.
I wish I had that going on.
Well, I mean, let's compare his training to yours thus far. Then, I mean,
Yeah. Well,
how far do you have to travel for your training?
I travel about an hour. I travel
Mhm.
about an hour to my training. It depends on how busy it is that day. I could whack it out in like 40 minutes, really.
Mhm.
But usually I grab a couple other guys on the way. It's not that much of a stress. It is with fuel prices right now, but it's not.
Oh yeah.
It's not the shit ton of hours he has to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you're
Um,
not like going across the entire country just to get to it, and then you're not having to sleep in your car either. You can actually, it's a little bit of a leg, but you can at least get back to
Okay, I
it.
did sleep in my car once after our Guildhall show, our sold out Guildhall show in Plymouth.
Ooh, I
We
did not
went
know
out.
this.
We went out.
Right.
We went out drinking, and I'd stopped drinking because I was like, I need to drive home because I can't get my car past 3 o'clock in the car park. And I
Hmm.
was like, I need to get home. I'd work the next day or whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the car, and I start driving home. And honestly, I would have been a better driver drunk than I was tired. So I start driving tired for the first time ever. Didn't realize how tired I was until I'm like halfway home, and I was like, and the second I did that, I was like, okay, and I held my eye open and I just parked in a village and slept in my car for like 2 hours.
Ah,
So I technically slept after wrestling, kind of.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's like
It
more
is
like
also
your
because I went
first.
out because I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that's like your first proper kind of road story then.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
suppose
in a
so.
sense, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
knew. Well,
you,
yeah, my first road story is I drove stupidly tired and nearly killed myself. Cool.
Undertaker would be so disappointed in you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like his training side of it is fascinating, and I think you're right. It can feel a bit meandering up until it gets to that point. But what I think the book overall does is that like you get a lot of biographies that because I mean I think a lot of people would see the thickness of this and be
Yeah.
quite put off. You know what I mean? And it is a thing where a lot of biographies can be like that, where it's like they kind of utter on about certain things to the point where like, well, this isn't really interesting. This is what I want to kind of focus on. I feel like everything in this does at least have a point of focusing on wrestling, why he loves wrestling, why he stayed in wrestling, and how he had his success in wrestling. It always ties back to it, I feel.
Yeah, even his personal life stuff, where you think he's just talking about him making pictures after a rough time, is like, no, it always ties back. It's always a lead into it, and I think his whole life is just kind of built towards it.
Mm-hmm.
It was really interesting learning about his family and stuff. I remember the chapter. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I was reading this in like a long journey during work, and
Yeah.
I was like, I saw a bit about his dad, and I was like, do I really care about this? And then you learn about his dad being, I can't remember his exact title, but like, state sports commission or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Um,
He's a really respected man around
yeah,
the family
yeah,
area because of the stuff he did at like school and
yeah.
sports. Yeah.
And it's interesting because you hear a lot of people talk about like, no one supported them with their wrestling dream. And with this one, he still went through the hardships without that. He was supported, but in a very very smart way. Like, the first thing his coach tells him is like, you're getting an education. Like,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter, you're getting an education first. Like, you're not doing wrestling without an education, blah 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 blah. And his dad was always may have been busy, but made time for him, and sat down with him every now and again, watched wrestling with him and whatnot.
Mm.
Caught him when he tried to go see Snuka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a bit about the book. I mean, before we discuss that bit, well, one of my favorite parts is like how he talks about his dad. What did have a bit of a sense of humor, but he was a bit of like a very stoic man at times, stuck in his ways. And I love the bit where he's talking about how in the summertime he would always try to write his dissertation, and he was basically this is obviously the time when you use a typewriter. And in Foley's book, he says how his dad didn't believe in things like Tipex or things like that. If he made a mistake on a page, he'd start again. So he writes as all he'd hear in the summertime as a click, 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 click. Oh shit! Oh shit! 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 Shit!
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one of the funniest stories is where Foley's getting taken back to get the bus to go back to college. Him and his friend had the plan of no, it's Snuka versus Morocco in a steel cage. We're gonna get dropped off, pretend we're going back to college, then catch the bus to New York, and we're gonna go to the Garden and see it. So his parents drop him off, and they say their goodbyes. And what him and his mate do is they run over into the trees near the bus station to hide from them.
For no reason, they decide to jump into the woods.
Yeah,
But for no reason at all, they just go, "We should just hide in the woods." They could have just stayed at the bus stop.
Yeah.
But no, the woods.
Yeah, the woods.
Sure.
And then his parents actually do pull back around and they come into the car park of the bus station again, looking for him. And then Mick freaks out and he thinks, okay, we'll just have to go back to college now. So he gets there. He actually gets there, and then when he gets there, he goes, "You know what? No, I've made a commitment. I want to see Snuka work in the cage." So he basically hitchhikes from his college and goes all the way back to New York to watch the match. And the only reason he got caught out is because he got basically a front row ticket, and his dad spotted his flannel T-shirt in the crowd.
Yeah. I mean,
what a man.
I mean, I would do that for a certain few matches. If Punk was nearby, I'd probably go and I'd hitch for a Punk match.
Oh, even if he was just like, if he was wrestling in like some random ass sports hall in like freaking Yorkshire, I'd hitchhike to get there if I had to. I think what's interesting as well is like when you read about. So obviously he had some kind of first matches, but what's interesting is how he actually got some early dark matches with the WWE, and not even necessarily dark matches. Some of them were recorded, so there is people have probably seen his first ever match was him and I forget the name of his partner now, but they were wrestling the British Bulldogs. And it's the famous story of, so as Mick tells it in his book, like it's his first time really in a match. And he goes up to the Bulldogs and he's like saying, he's being nice. He's not trying to be like a jerk, but he's like saying, "Oh, I do this like elbow thing. Would it be okay if I did that?" And then they're just chuckling at him going, "Yeah, sure, kid, you can do that if you want to." But then they get to the ring and they just kill him. They just basically kill him. The famous thing is Dynamite, who's typically an angry man anyway, basically gets in the ring and nearly takes his head off with a clothesline, dislocates his jaw, and Foley couldn't eat solid food for about 3 months. But Foley being the consummate professional, like a lot of people, even if you're that young, would go back and try and argue a case against them. And I think the Bulldogs were expecting that. He just comes up and just says, "Thank you," and just shakes the hand. Could have easily just kicked off, but he was just like, "No, be professional."
I think at that point he'd taken so much abuse already that he was like, "This just must be what it is." I mean, his first encounter with his coach was like, he gave him a forearm and then he, stamped the ground, and then he took a forearm and winced. Like, probably one of the best lessons you can learn in wrestling is that it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. You know?
Well, it's like in that vein, it's like when he was saying, because obviously there's a lot in this book about him working with Terry Funk, and we'll get to that stuff later on. But like he says, it was something along the lines of, how Terry always threw one of the best punches in the business, and he never knew how he did it until he got into the ring. And Terry threw a punch at him. He went, that's how it looks so good, because it's real.
It's real. Yeah. I mean, that's that. A lot of it, honestly, has informed me, because I mean, it's not, you don't lay it in when you're training, really.
Oh yeah.
But from what I've garnered, I would rather be knocked out than someone hit me lightly and pretend I am, because it just doesn't look great, and I'd rather it look great. Just hit me and I'll just hit you.
Well, you took, was it a shot to the gut recently?
I took a knee to the ribs in the corner from a guy who usually refs from us, a guy called Matt. And at the time I didn't play it up. I remember I was like selling, because I took a knee and I was like, and then I took a knee and I was like, and that I had bruised ribs for like 3 weeks or something. I did, it's something that you don't entirely feel at the time, but like, you definitely feel like I've been rocked a bit. at that point, that knee didn't look great, and it was just in training. So I was like, well, not ideal, but whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. Well, I think that's what he learns a lot about in this. Is like, again, I think, like, correct me wrong, but I think like if you're someone like yourself getting into it, it's one of those perfect books to read because I feel like he does kind of sum up what a lot of wrestlers like. Like obviously he went in with this notion that, oh yeah, I know it's all pretend, and all this, and then of course the first lesson he learns is no, not really. I mean, everything that you're doing is gonna fucking hurt. It's gonna suck, and if you're expecting to make a lot of money out of this, it's probably not gonna happen. Especially back then. And with a guy of his body types, that was the thing. Like, I think he says he worked harder than a lot of people because, again, he wasn't that typical body type and never really has been. He's never been the six-pack, jacked guy. He's always been that very sort of awkward kind of shape, which he obviously played into his advantage because, I mean, I think that's what people impressed him. Like, as the Nucci would put it, he got a grapefruit this size because he was willing to take, even back in training, he was taking, like, really, like, decent bumps and was willing to put himself through a lot of pain just to try and stand out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you learn it relatively quickly. I suppose it depends where you train. You can buy a progress package where you basically get fast tracked for little things, and then you pay another, and you go up another level, and blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But if you just start at a promotion where every single person has another job,
yeah,
because there isn't really money in it. Like, we have a few people in our academy and a few people who wrestle around, and they have other jobs. Just because you need to have other jobs, it's not steady ever. You could end up with a broken arm. You could end up with whatever, and it's never certain that you're going to sell at the merch table. It's never certain you're going to have a decent booking, and you oftentimes will get a booking for a tenner, but you do it because you love it, and that's why these people do it. It's why I do it. It's why I want to go back. It's why I'm desperate to do anything I can while I've got the injury. And you can tell in this book that he is that kind of person. He would probably have done all of it again, even if it was for nothing.